Hi everyone. Not so long ago, I received encouragement to maybe film some more bite-sized videos as well, not only the long rants. And since I do have a notebook full of ideas and talking points, I thought I would choose one at random and just see what comes out. So, welcome to my cat infested living room. I am Mariana. I'm the creator of the Venelestis Botanical Oracle decks, and as such, I'm very interested in divination in general and ways to build meaning within our own personal practice. And that is one of the topics that has offered themselves to me from my notebook, and that's what I'm going to speak on today. The question that I have written in my notebook, I will read it verbatim for you, is what is wrong with memorized correspondence? And to preface, I don't think there's anything wrong with memorized correspondence if. What I do mean by that is, of course, learning and memorizing correspondence to work with within your practice is a useful tool on its own. It's a useful tool to have in your arsenal when you don't have the time to discover and be a Marco Polo of spiritual practice. Where I do believe it becomes a problem when it's the only thing we allow ourselves to rely on when practicing magic and spirituality. What I mean by that is when the memorized correspondence is the only dogma or the only truth we will allow ourselves to work with without taking the time and the ability to dig deeper into how that correspondence has been discovered. I say discovered with intention because I don't believe that correspondence is assigned and then that correspondence belongs to a plant or a stone or whatever. I do believe that we do discover these correspondences and that things in our natural world have begun their existence in evolution with these correspondences already as a part of their energetical signature. To come back, when you work with correspondences that you have read in a book or in other sources or gleaned from other practitioners who have told you this symbolizes that or the other, it's great to memorize these and to like have them in the back of your mind as possibilities, but I think it's also very important to delve deeper into how these correspondences are discovered and how they come up to be within the spiritual consensus of what other practitioners have been doing in history and what they are doing now. And by gaining that sort of understanding of how these correspondences come to be discovered, will give you the freedom of taking any other plant or any other stone or any other natural object or animal. And if you are not lucky enough to have a resource that already states some correspondences, you will be able to extrapolate them on your own for yourself, for your own personal benefit. That all is to say that if you allow yourself to only work with correspondences that have been given to you by others, you are very much limiting yourself in terms of which natural objects, plants, animals, stones, minerals you can work with to only those that have been described in spiritual, magical, metaphysical, witchcraft literature, and whatnot. The danger with that, especially nowadays, you will no longer have the ability to rely on written text or a published text of any sort as any kind of authority on what you are getting for information. When I was growing up, and I'm 36 right now, when we went to a bookstore and you bought a physical copy of that book, you had some sort of security that what you were purchasing has not only been written by a real person, but most probably also read by an editor and fact checked to some degree with metaphysical literature, not so much, but as an author of metaphysical literature, if your peers who would then purchase your book didn't deem it good enough or the information in it not deep enough, or not factual enough, or not, for example, based on some sort of sources from his history, you would never publish again. And so it was in your own best interest to do the best job that you could and to publish something of quality, because the published book was your calling card. And if people were criticizing it on the internet, the publisher would not publish it again, because most people didn't have the means to self-publish again and again and again, and publish digitally. Publishing of books, to some degree, of course, is to this day, but more so was in the past, a very expensive affair. So to be published in print was a big deal to authors, and hence the authors had to present the best information they could. And if the information was deemed not good by their peers, they would not get a publishing contract again, until a couple of years ago, when you could self-publish on Amazon for basically free. Nobody had to proofread your book, and nowadays you don't even have to write it yourself. And it's a problem. It's a problem that a lot of books on magic and witchcraft that you find nowadays, you have to actually scrutinize and ask whether these books have even been written by a human. And that's unimaginable to me to this day, that I have to wonder if a book that I would like to purchase has even been written by a human being. 10-20 years ago, you could have wondered if it was if it was written and published by an author who had any credentials or any experience, who had even like cited sources, who, you know what I mean? It's a wild west of literature that we are working with. But to come back to my bite-sized topic right now, that's what I think is wrong with the need to just memorize correspondences, because we live in a world where you cannot know that the correspondences you are given in writing, be it online or in a book, even a printed book, whether these correspondences are at least UPG, let alone something that there has been any sort of consensus on. So if you are learning correspondences, maybe go back to books that have been published long ago, even like old herbals from Renaissance, where, for example, planetary correspondence or elemental correspondences was a part of the scientific practice of describing herbs. But also you can go back to newer literature like Scott Cunningham, which I have a very warm, fuzzy spot in my heart for some reason. And start there, but instead of just memorizing, maybe dig deeper and ask why these correspondences are assigned to that plant. What are the properties of that plant that are correspondent to its symbolic or corresponding elements, planets, uses, and whatever that is. What is it that makes this plant good for love magic, and what makes this plant jovial, as in ruled by Jupiter? What are the properties that make these connections in that plant? And when you find out that, hey, this plant is solar because it has a lot of yellow and it has stimulant properties on the body, then you can see another yellow plant and maybe ask yourself, maybe this plant can also be used for solar workings. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I think is wrong with just plainly memorizing correspondences instead of actually trying to discover them for yourself. So memorizing is good, but you have to use the existing information you have critically and use it to discover how these correspondences have been assigned to whatever you're working with, so that you can take then different things that have maybe not been discovered or described in literature and be able to discover their correspondences for yourself. To toot my own horn a little bit, I am a creator of botanical oracle decks. Each of the main decks has 56 cards, and I can guarantee you that 70% of what I have illustrated has not been described in mainstream, old-timey, human-written literature to a detail where you can take every card and write down the correspondences for everything for each of the plants that I have illustrated based on literary resources. And that's because there is hundreds of thousands of species of plant, and you will not always live near the specific described plants, and you will not always be able to use just the specifically described plants, but you still have the option and the freedom to use anything that grows outside your window for your working without needing to get the special lavender if it just doesn't grow where you live because you live in Greenland or something. So you should be able to figure out what correspondences your local spirits and local plants have and what domains they are maybe able to help you with. So yeah, that's what I mean. Thank you for being here. I hope this has given you again some sort of food for thought and some sort of snippet to maybe change your perspective or give you something to think about for later. And if you like this, please like it. If you would subscribe, I would be very grateful. And please let me know in your comments how you do stuff, you know? See ya.